Hello, baseball fans. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Welcome into On Deck. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. This is the first live stream of the year, February 22nd, 2024, and I am so excited for the season to come. We're not that far from spring training games getting going, and I thought this was a perfect time ahead of this season in general. So that's what we're going to do tonight, and we have quite a lot to talk about. I already see the chat is active. Make sure to get your super chats in. That is how you guys can get front of the line in terms of me reading off your comments. But before we get into what you guys want to talk about, I want to talk about a few topics as we begin spring training, because every spring training has storylines, and this year is no different. And I think the biggest one as we head into this year is going to be Chris Sale. You know, he was the biggest offseason addition. We got him in a trade for Vaughn Grissom to the Boston Red Sox. He was the biggest investment this season, and that's a big deal. You know, I mean, that doesn't just happen. The team has to believe in him. Not to mention the Braves also decided to extend Chris Sale, and I thought that was a very big deal in terms of the fact that the Braves were dedicated enough to the idea to not only sign him but also extend him. I have a lot of belief in Chris Sale. I think Chris Sale could very well exceed all expectations, even ours. I expect him to have a solid year, much more of the year that he's accustomed to having outside of injuries, because this is his first healthy offseason in 6 seasons. I think the fact that he's going to be surrounded by a rotation with guys like you see behind him there, Max Fried, guys like Charlie Morton, guys that can help keep his innings limited, to a degree, because Sale has been expected to be the guy with the Red Sox. I think being in Atlanta is only going to benefit him. I certainly hope so. And I would love to know what you guys think about him as well. But I have very high expectations for Chris Sale. I think reasonable expectations for Sale is that he will be, in the mix in your 3 to 4 level starter, right? I think at this point, Max Fried, Spencer Strider have taken over the number 1, number 2 idea. I don't think anybody's threatening that. I think Chris Sale's a solid 3. I think Morton will be your number 4. Number 5 is pretty interesting too. That's a whole storyline in itself. Who will be the 5th starter? I think the reasonable expectation is Bryce Elder, but it is far from guaranteed for Elder. Elder needs a good spring training, and if someone else is to have a good spring training, you have guys like Hurston Waldrop, you have guys like Darius Vines, you have guys like Dylan Dodd, who very well could make a push to get it on opening day or to get it on the 5th game of the year, whatever the case may be. But the starting rotation is solid, and I think that is a point where a lot of folks are kind of overlooking it, because the rotation, because we went into the offseason with some questions surrounding it, with Kyle Wright being out for this year and then traded, because we went into the offseason that way, I think a lot of people were under the impression that the starting rotation is not going to be at full strength. But I think the starting rotation demonstrated last year why they will be at full strength this year, because you not only have guys at the top of the rotation, but you have guys like Bryce Elder on the back end and even in the minors right now that can come up in a spot start. And, of course, we've traded a couple of those guys away. I mentioned Kyle Wright. We've also traded away Darius Vines. There's been other guys that are no longer on the roster, but you have guys throughout the organization at every level that could come up and help. But the fact that you add on a former All-Star, a guy who can give you good innings, and a guy who can, I think, in the postseason really shine in Chris Sale, I think it's a recipe for success. Beyond, your typical Hurston Waldrops, your Darius Vines, Dylan Dodd. You also have A.J. Smith-Shawver in the mix. You have a guy in Ronaldo Lopez who we acquired in the offseason, who is a guy who could potentially start. I don't think that is where they are going to put him. I think he's more than likely going to be a bullpen. The way I viewed Ronaldo Lopez is they signed him prior to the Chris Sale signing. And I think this is a just in case we need a fifth starter type of deal, in case something else doesn't happen. But if it does happen, he can also go to the bullpen, and I think he could be successful there. I think he has more of a chance of being successful in the bullpen and long relief than I do as a starter. That's not to say he couldn't be a starter. I certainly think he's going to be in that competition. But as of right now, I have no reason to suspect that Bryce Elder would not come out the winner after spring training. I would just be surprised. Now, granted, Bryce Elder did not have a good spring training last year. He did not come out looking like he was going to be on the roster in the early part of the season after spring training last year. If you remember, the guys that were fighting for that fifth spot were Dylan Dodd and Jared Schuster out of spring training. Dylan Dodd winning it, and then Bryce Elder taking it later after Dylan Dodd did not quite measure up long-term at the major league level. That could change this year. But I certainly think there is a competition there. I don't think it's going to be handed to Bryce Elder. I think had he had a solid year going into had he had a solid year all the way through, like he had a really good first half this past season. Obviously, he went to the All-Star game, but after that, I really think he was kind of gassed. I think he had carried a lot of innings. I don't think he had ever had that kind of marathon of a season. I don't think he had seen that many innings in a long time. I just don't think he was fully there in the second half of last season. Not to say that that's any excuse. I'm just telling you, I think if he had had a solid year all the way through, this competition that I'm talking about is kind of a moot point. I think because he had the lackluster second half, we're having the conversation of, well, could it be A.J. Smith-Shawver? Could it be Hurston Waldrop? Could it be Darius Vines, Dylan Dodd, Ronaldo Lopez? I mean, any of those guys who are in the mix. And, this is a really good thing because a lot of people are probably going to look at the starting rotation right now and go, man, like, what are we going to do? Because we have all these guys on the outer rim of the selection here. What are we going to do with them? Well, I would tell you this. It's never a bad thing to have too much starting pitching, not only for this season. I mean, your usual up and downs, your spot starts, that kind of thing. It's great to have depth. But beyond that, Max Fried is a free agent after this year. Okay? And the way I look at it, you may have to find somebody else that could carry the mantle going forward. So it's just kind of it's far away from us now. We have a whole season to go. But you may just want to keep an eye on some of these guys. And you know what? They may be trade pieces for a starting pitcher next offseason if Max Fried is, indeed walking into free agency, not re-signed. So it's just something to keep an eye on. That's the way I feel about it right now. But the starting rotation is certainly one of the biggest talking points because you do have Chris Sale and you do have, that fifth spot that's not necessarily filled yet. The other aspect of the starting rotation that I want to talk about is Spencer Strider. Spencer Strider has debuted a new pitch. You heard that correctly. He has shown off a brand new pitch, and this is something that I always thought could happen. I'm kind of glad to see that it is happening. Of course, Spencer Strider is mainly known for his fastball slider mix with the occasional changeup. But yesterday he debuted a bit of an alternative version of his slider that kind of resembles a curveball. I'm going to let you get a look at it real quick. This is him versus Matt Olson. Now, the red line there, that is the fastball. The green line is, of course, this new pitch that I'm referring to. Everybody's calling it a curveball. Spencer Strider's going with it as an alternative slider. It's just a different direction on the slider. Either way, all you need to know, one is a fastball, the other is off speed. Check out where the two go away. This is why it is so hard to be a major league hitter against guys like Spencer Strider. Check that out. You got a 50-50 shot, and if you don't pick it right, I mean, you're up a creek. And that's Matt Olson. That's not any scrub. I mean, that's one of the best hitters in the game right now. And if this pitch can do that to him, I am excited to see what it could do. If he's got this plus his normal slider, I think it could be very effective. The other thing I want to point out on this pitch, Strider's normal slider, his typical one that he's been using over the past few years, has always been more of a right to left trajectory. I want you to watch this one more time because this is more of a straight up, straight down trajectory. Not a 12-6 or anything like that, but it's definitely more down. and it's definitely more out of the zone. And I like it because out of the hand, it's got the same groove, it's got the same path as the fastball, and really the same velocity just about out of the hand. But it takes that quick pause right there. I mean, they're very little difference out of the hand, but this could work very well for Strider. I'm excited to see that he's at least experimenting with another pitch. I think it could be. I think it really could benefit him in the long run to have more of an arsenal. I mean, he's already one of the best pitchers in the game, and he's been a two-pitch pitcher for the majority of his career so far, again, with the occasional changeup. And if he mixes that in more, I mean, it's going to be really fun to watch Spencer Strider this year. I have a lot of excitement for Spencer Strider's season coming up. Now, another pitcher that I want to talk about in depth, we did the roster breakdown. I mentioned that I thought this guy, if healthy, would be on the opening day roster without a doubt. Of course, I'm talking about Tyler Matzek. Now, Tyler Matzek has not pitched regularly since 2022. He's recovering from Tommy John surgery, of course, or he has been recovering from Tommy John. He is expected to play this year. He will be back. He will likely not begin the season on the opening day roster, at least if all accounts are to be believed. This is what he is telling reporters. He thinks that he will have some rehab assignments to start the season. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I don't want to rush him back. There's no reason to rush him back early in the season. The Braves have gotten all kinds of left-handed pitching over the offseason. There's just no need. Plus, I mean, this early in the season with 162 games to go, you don't want to push Tyler Matzek. You want him to be ready in the back half of the season is the way I look at it. I don't think he'll be gone that long, but I definitely think he's going to be a few weeks out come opening day. They want to let him get some actual at-bats together at the minor league level and let him kind of evolve from there. I'm curious to see what he turns into this year, but what that is going to do is it's going to leave a bit of an experimental time frame with a roster spot open. Because Tyler Matzek's not going to be there. You have, in theory, a spot open, obviously. So that could be an opportunity for whoever doesn't get that fifth spot to kind of prove themselves. Of course, I'm referring to the starters we mentioned earlier, your Dylan Dodds, your Hurston Waldrops, Ronaldo Lopez, anybody like that who is A.J. Smith-Shawver, though I think he's got a very good shot at possibly getting that fifth starter spot. I think any of those guys could very well get the opportunity in the bullpen to kind of show, hey, we belong on this roster, whether it's as a starter or as a bullpen piece. We belong here. But I think with Tyler Matzek, I'm excited to see what he does this year. I think it's a matter of time before he's back on the mound. He's got a great attitude about this whole thing. You know, the whole injury thing is like, look, I'm here to get to another postseason, and there's nobody who has done more on the pitcher's mound as a reliever in the past few years than Tyler Matzek. Because you think about what he did in 2021, you think about, I think he's a legend in Atlanta after the striking out, all the guys he did with the Dodgers in that Game 6, 7th inning with runners on. I think he's a legend. The other topic I want to talk about today is the bench. I've kind of talked about this. I talked about it in the spring training look ahead video about how the bench is not necessarily going to be as stellar as I think it could be. We broke that down. I even suggested that if the Braves, could, they would probably pick up an extra pitcher as opposed to selecting one of the guys, that are on the non-roster invitee list to be on the bench. And I'll tell you why in a minute, but it's very limited. After all, here's the thing. It strikes me as odd that the bench is limited, and it probably does with you as well, because why wouldn't a free agent bat be lining up to have, a part of this offense, to be a part of this offense? And it's simple, really. It's the lack of playing time. And, the way you need to look at it is this. I would rather have a solid lineup that posts up every day than count on a bench bat to come and play occasionally. I don't mind a bench bat here and there, but I don't want us to have to use them all the time because someone can't play or someone needs a rest day all the time. Now, what do I mean by the Braves post up? Here's what I mean. In 2023, Matt Olson played all 162 games. Austin Riley missed 3. Ronald Acuña missed 3. Ozzie Albies played 148. Marcelo Zuna played 144. Michael Harris played 138, and he was out for 3 weeks with a back injury. That's why Kevin Pillar got so many innings. Arcia battled injuries, but he played 139. All right, so out of that complete list, you have a total of 85 games missed. The part that I did not bring up was the fact that d'Arnaud and Murphy combined for 182 at catcher, because d'Arnaud is used as a bench bat. This is why I think the Braves get away with not using a bench bat, because it's versatile in most days to not require it because of your catchers. Murphy had 21 homers last year in about 108 games. He was on pace for about 35 had he played a whole 162 season. d'Arnaud had a lot of at-bats off the bench. And if he starts, in theory, you have Murphy on the bench unless someone is injured. This is why the Braves, I don't think, are investing in their bench that much. They picked up Luis Guillorme. I think that's solid. I think the other favorite to make the roster right now, simply by name value alone, is David Fletcher. There's some other guys in the list that very well could make it. It's all about who does what in spring training, and that'll be an interesting thing to watch play out. But I think right now I expect Luis Guillorme to make it, and I expect David Fletcher to make it. But, you know, the thing that I have found odd all offseason was, why did we release Matt Carpenter? Because you acquired him for trading for Ray Kerr to the Padres. We traded outfielder Drew Campbell in that trade. Now, granted, Matt Carpenter didn't have a great 2023. He had 5 homers and a 176 average. He's getting older. I get that, but I don't understand. I wouldn't have minded an invite to spring training for Matt Carpenter because our bench, I believe, is pretty limited. I just don't understand that. I don't know that Matt Carpenter would have been the answer, but he is a proven commodity. He is a proven bat. If he's limited in the field, you know, fine. But, I mean, why not, you know, have him ready to go in a pinch hit situation? You know, that's just me. Another topic I wanted to talk about, Charlie Culberson. That's a familiar name, everybody. Charlie Culberson's trying to pitch. And I'll tell you this. When I first heard it, I probably had a similar reaction to you guys, where I was like, wait, what? He's legitimately trying to do this? But when I sat and I thought about it, Charlie throws mid-90s. He's got pretty good numbers pitching. I mean, he's only allowed 1 run over 7 1/3 career innings. So I'm not saying this is going to be great. I'm not saying he's going to make the roster. I don't think that at all. At least in opening day, I think that would be a very low chance of that happening. But I definitely think Charlie is the type of person to put his mind to something and make it happen. It's a new goal for him. I hope he accomplishes it. And, I wouldn't bet against him for sure. I mean, I have interviewed Charlie before. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a very friendly player, really, and compared to everyone else. I mean, Charlie stands out. And I think that he's an easy guy to want to keep around. And what I mean by that is you look at him, he's a team guy. I think he played one year, he played every position except catcher. You know, I mean, he wants to be on the field in some form or fashion. And, you know, I saw an interview with him where he was flirting with the idea of being a two-way guy. If he takes a spot as, you know, a reliever and can hit, why not? You know, if he's being successful, I don't mind it at all. But that's my thoughts on Charlie Culberson. I hope that he can attain this goal, and I respect it a lot that he's even giving it a shot, because a lot of guys wouldn't. Beyond that, do I think he'll make it opening day? Probably not, but I certainly think they're going to give him every chance possible. Lastly, this is the last topic of the day before we get into the comment section. Ronald Acuña Jr. has stated that he wants to be a lifetime Atlanta Brave. And I got to tell you, that's music to my ears. I'm sure it's music to your ears as well. I think Ronald Acuña Jr. should be a lifetime Brave because of all of what he has accomplished so far in his career. I don't know what kind of deal he's looking for, but he's like, look, I want to make this happen. I mean, that's what we're hearing is he's like, I want to make this happen. Whatever it is, I want to make it happen. And we got him on a really good deal right now. The Braves locked him up 10 years, $10 million a year, right at $100 million across 10 years. I would not mind giving him a raise after the season he just had, and I certainly would not mind extending him. And the moment I extend Acuña, I extend Ozzie Albies in the same motion. But he definitely wants to be locked up. I would like to see that sooner rather than later because I don't want to get to the year 9 and him, like Chipper said a few years ago, I don't want him to get attracted by all the pretty girls in the free agent market. I want him to be locked up as an Atlanta Brave, and the guy has earned it. We got him for a steal, and it's been very profitable over these past few years. Ozzie Albies, too. Ozzie Albies is the one for me that I can't believe we pay him what we pay him. I think we pay him $7 million a year across 5 years, and that should be coming up in the next couple of seasons. So I really want to lock up Ozzie. I think Ozzie is a guy whose jersey number could be retired one day, as obviously Acuña as well. But those are the two that I think if you're going to lock up your core, you've locked up Riley, you got Olson, lock those guys up. And, I mean, you got Harris as well. I mean, those guys belong in Atlanta. Hopefully they will be here long after this conversation. The other thing, and I know we're probably going to get some questions on this. I typically always do. Let's talk about the lineup. And I'm kind of jumping ahead here. My brother and me were having a conversation earlier. So, hey, how do you feel about the Braves lineup? What do you think? And I always kind of hate that question because there's so many different ways to put it together. There really is, because it depends on what kind of strategy. It depends what kind of strategy you want to go with. I think realistically, your top 5 are set, right? Acuña's number 1. We all know he's leading off. Ozzie's number 2, Riley number 3, Olson number 4, Ozuna number 5. That's how it was last year for the majority of the season. I don't see any reason to change it considering we just got done with being one of the best offenses all time. Number 6, that is the spot Rosario held along with Pilar last year. I'm going to let Kelenic go ahead and slide in there. I think he fits well there. You need a lefty after Ozuna. I think Kelenic fits in there. Then after that, I give it the catcher spot, usually Murphy, but d'Arnaud could also be there. Again, righty-lefty, that's how I'm thinking. I'm putting Michael Harris at 8, and this was my biggest question mark with the lineup was, do I put Michael Harris at 8 or do I put him at 9? I got Arcia at 9. I'm going to tell you why. And to be honest with you, my brother kind of convinced me of this because I initially was like, I want Harris at 9 because of the speed. But I was wrong, to be honest with you. I want Harris at 8 because he's a professional hitter. He can hit 300 and gets right and left. It doesn't matter who he's facing. I think, and he can hit bombs. But the more important thing is he can get on base no matter what side he's coming from. With Arcia, I think Arcia needs a little bit more protection in the lineup. I think that's when he's successful. He's got this is more about the strategy than it is stats. I have no stats behind this. This is me looking at a bunch of names and what side they hit from and me just thinking out loud. I want Arcia in the 9 hole because I have Acuña on deck. And in theory, let's say you come up and it's the catcher spot leading off. They get out. You come up with 1 out with Harris. He gets on base. You could steal. You could do whatever. But now I have Arcia up with Acuña on deck and a man on. You have to pitch to Arcia because you don't want to walk him and have Acuña coming on with 2 on. But, if he gets out, you got Acuña coming up with 2 outs and still 1 runner on. So I think it provides Arcia protection. I think it feeds the top of the lineup. And Arcia, I'm sitting here acting like Arcia is so bad. He's not. I mean, he's a great hitter. But I think Arcia is the guy in the lineup that a pitcher would circle and say, I need to get that out right there. And he's going to get the challenge pitches. So likely fastballs. I think he can put it in play. And if you got Acuña batting behind you, you're going to see fastballs. So that's my lineup. Again, it's Acuña, Ozzie, Riley, Olson, Ozuna, Kelenic, the catcher spot, Michael Harris, and Arcia. I'd love to see your lineups. Go ahead and put that down in the comment section. And, look, if it's different than mine, I'll read it off and tell you what I like about it and tell you what I don't like about it. But for right now, that's what we got. Also, we need to talk about FOCO. If you remember last year, we partnered with FOCO to go ahead and give you guys giveaways, to give you discounts on their products, and they are the leading supplier of anything Atlanta Braves merchandise. Right now, we're actually doing a giveaway on these player straw hats. These are officially licensed Ronald Acuña player straw hats. They're perfect for spring training. They're perfect for the beach. They're perfect for the pool. Whatever the case may be, you need to go get one. The link is down below. But what you need to do to get this on a giveaway, we're giving this to you. All you need to do is go to my Twitter, which is on your screen right now. It's right here. Go there, and I actually have a post up right now that's basically you need to follow me, you need to follow Foco, and then you need to leave your favorite Braves GIF or GIF, however you say it, on that post. And I'm going to pick the winner come Sunday and let you know who is walking away with an Atlanta Brave straw hat. I'd love to give it to you. I'd love to give it to whoever you want to give it to. But I think this is a great giveaway, and looking forward to it. The other thing we need to talk about, they have these, speaking of spring training, these Grapefruit Leagues big heads, of course, featuring the man himself, Ronald Acuña, on the left and Blooper on the right. And, of course, you can probably see the base down there below. That is a grapefruit, and I wonder why. This is perfect celebration for spring training. I really would appreciate it if you guys went ahead and took yourself over to Foco.com. Again, the link is down below, and go ahead and get you one of these. Give it to somebody. This makes a great Easter gift. And they have plenty of products there, Atlanta Braves, that would be great to put in the Easter basket. We're not far away from that. Hey, I think Father's Day is coming up. Mother's Day is probably not too far around it. So go ahead. Go to Foco.com. They are down below. They have tons of products. They have bobbleheads. They have, like we had, straw hats. They have overalls. They have t-shirts. They have signs. They have whatever you need to celebrate the Atlanta Braves. They have it there. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the comment section. I already see we have a super chat from William Fulgham, one of our most loyal guys. William, good to see you, buddy. Good to hear from you. We're going to read that off in just a second, but a reminder, super chats like William just did, that is the way to get to the top of the list. And that is how you jump to the front of the line. It's like a fast pass at Six Flags. So that's what I would tell you. But William, let's go ahead and read what you got to say. Right now we have 37 men on the 40-man roster with 3 guys to now land on the 60 IL. So how does AA fill it out during the spring? It's a good question. I don't buy into who's on the roster right now a ton, and I have my reasons for that. I just think spring training kind of is the place, the proving ground of where this is actually going to go, because we don't know. I mean, I'd be lying to you if I told you I knew every player on the non-invitee list. I don't know who they are. I don't know what they're going to do in spring training. They could very well, flip it around and do something completely different. I remember a few years ago we all thought Jake Lamb was going to be the guy off the bench, and he didn't make it to the roster on opening day, if I'm not mistaken. So it can really go a lot of different ways, and it's really all about who has a great spring training. But whoever has a great spring training, that does not necessarily mean that they're going to have a great early start of the regular season once games count, is the best way I can put it. So how does AA fill it? I think he lets competition take place, and he sees who comes out the victor of that. I don't think it's so much of a trade thing. I don't think they're not going to go sign any free agents. I really think we're about done on that until the trade deadline or maybe early into the season. I mean, there's a couple of guys still out there, big namers. I don't think we're even going to flirt with that idea. I think we've got what we want. We've got Chris Sale. We got Kellenic, who I like a lot as well. I don't think they're going to explore paying big money for anybody. They could, they always could do that, but I think it's going to be more about competition, and competition's a good thing. A few years ago, we were going to see who's going to be the third baseman. Is it going to be Austin Riley, or is it going to be Johan Camargo? That wasn't that long ago, and that was all competition. Who's going to win it out? Now, I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you that I thought it was going to be Austin Riley. I think a lot of people did. But the competition was good. You don't want to just, hey, here's your spot, welcome. You don't want to do that. You want to make them earn it. And I think that's what the Braves are going to do. I think the competition's going to be great. And I'll be heading to spring training, I want to say around March 18th. So if you're down in Northport around that time, you may see me there. But I'm going to hopefully get an up-close personal look at the team ahead of opening day, and that'll be kind of my last coverage of it up at that point. But I'm looking forward to it. And again, if you're down there, I'd love to speak with you. And if let me know. Of course, you can get me on social media, whatever the case may be. But that will be kind of when we know more about how the team's going to look. And until then, we're kind of left in the dark right now. But again, William, thank you for the super chat. Really do appreciate it. Again, super chats are how you get put at the top of the list as well. One more reminder before I start going through the comment section here. Please do like the video and subscribe to the channel. That really does help us out. We reached our goal of 5,000 subs last year. That was a huge deal for us. Really appreciate all of you guys. I see On The Go with CeeLo's in here. He was a big proponent of that. Really appreciate him. And for this channel to grow, it doesn't grow without you guys. So thank you for all the support, all of you guys who have been loyal to me over the past few years. I'm ready to start 2024, ready to get into it, and I'm excited to see some names I know. I'm more excited to see some names I don't know here in the chat. Really do appreciate you guys tuning in. Let's see. Daniel Barry Sports Highlights says, yo, what's up, man? Brett Walter says, MLB jerseys are embarrassing. Yeah, I didn't mention that in my early monologue. I might should have, but I'm glad you brought it up. Yeah, I'm not going to buy these jerseys. And I don't know if you guys can tell this if you're watching this on YouTube. I don't know if you guys can tell this or not, but I'm a bit of a collector, okay? I have a closet full of jerseys I'm looking at right over there, and all different colors, all different, names on the back. Some of them are signed. I'm a big collector. The jerseys that I have seen, the pictures I have seen, I don't know what Nike, Fanatics, whoever it is, I don't know what they're doing, but they do not look good. They don't. And I think that we're going to see some changes very soon, because I would love, to go out and be able to buy a good jersey and know that it's a good jersey. I mean, this is going to sound terrible, but I mean, right now, I just don't think I want to invest in them, because, we're talking about the pants these guys are wearing are see-through. This is the same company that makes the jerseys, makes the hats. I don't think the spring training jerseys look that bad for the Braves, but I've seen some other teams, and they do not look good. I'm curious to see what they look like come opening day. I hope we see some major changes, but they got to do something, and they got to do it quicker, sooner rather than later, because it's becoming a meme. It's becoming a viral laughing stock among sports fans, and Major League Baseball's got to be careful. Rob Manfred, kind of dodged the question the other day, but this is going to be something that players are not going to let go of. Players are already letting them hear it how much they don't like them. So I think it's a matter of time. I don't think they're going to last. If it's for this season, God forbid, then it's for this season, but I don't see it lasting any longer than that. I'd be very surprised. Joe Reese says, I like the Braves, but I hope Soroka embarrasses them the second series of the year. I don't even necessarily disagree with you, and I say that not because I'm mad the Braves traded Soroka. I understood it. As a guy who, look, I know you're saying you like Soroka. I just want to show you something. I drove all the way 3 hours from my house to watch him pitch the first time he came back. I'm a huge Michael Soroka fan, all right? I love his story. I'd love to see a comeback. But at the same time, I completely understood why the Braves had to move on, right? They had to get something for the investment they've had in Soroka. I believe he was traded for Aaron Bummer amidst that trade, as were a lot of big name guys, not necessarily guys that were integral to the Braves, but they were guys who, how do I put this, close-knit Braves fans were liked because they'd seen them so long. I think Colby Allard was moved in that deal. A couple other guys were moved that were big names, and all for Aaron Bummer. That was the big Aaron Bummer trade. It was like 7 players, I think. The Chicago White Sox are going to look a lot like the Atlanta Braves last year come this season. So it'll be interesting to see. I hope Soroka has a great career ahead of him. I really do. It would be a great story for baseball. It would be a great story for him. He's been nothing but courteous to me. I interviewed him last year in spring training, and I was hoping, this year he'd have, a comeback season. And it wasn't meant to be. But as long as he's healthy, There's nothing stopping him. So hopefully, I don't know if I necessarily want him to embarrass the Braves, but if he pitches good 6 innings and then we manage to win it at the end, I'll take it. Captain Spartan says, so basically you're saying we're winning the World Series this year. They are the favorites. I don't know if I'd predict that because I'd be a walking meme after that. I mean, we've all seen the Mets guy. The NL East ain't over yet. So I'm not going to say that, but I definitely think we are in the mix. I think we are, when you look at the contenders, you have us, you have the Dodgers, you have a few teams across the game that have a real chance. And I hate to say it, but the Phillies, I'm not going to overlook them because they've beaten us 2 years in a row in the postseason. They've made it to the World Series. I think ultimately the way this is going to go is that the Braves are the favorite. They should be the favorite. They are by chance. They are by far the best team offensively, and I think they have a good enough starting rotation where they can beat anybody. So, am I going to say that they're going to win the World Series? I don't know. I would certainly love to see it. I think they have every chance in the world. And if you're asking me who I'm picking on opening day to win it all, of course it's going to be the Atlanta Braves. And I think any fan with common sense that doesn't have a team in the mix is going to say the Atlanta Braves are the best team in baseball right now. And it's not close after last season. I mean, you're talking about a team who, again, had one of the best offenses statistically all time, a great rotation when fully healthy, a good bullpen, and, I mean, the offense just mashed everybody, until the postseason, unfortunately. But I think, you're looking at a 100-win team. That's what I think. I mean, pending everybody's healthy, and I think Acuña is only going to get better. Wouldn't surprise me if he went back-to-back in MVPs, because you don't just do a 40-70 season and then just say, all right, well, I don't need to steal any more bases. I'm good. No, he's going to want to do that again. He's going to want to make it 50-80, or 50-100. He's going to want to push the limits of what he can do. And hopefully he stays healthy, and I think he'll have a great year. Matt Olson, I think, finally came into his own last year and became the guy who we wanted him to be. Sean Murphy, I think, will have that same thing this year. I think Ozuna, if I'm not mistaken, this is Ozuna's last year with us under contract. I think he finally got out of the woods a bit last year. I expect good things out of him. Ozzy Albies, no reason to expect any different. Consistent one. And we've talked about this before. The fact that he's not in the top 20 second baseman is ridiculous. I don't even understand it. I don't even buy into a lot of those polls, but it is what it is. I expect big years out of really everybody. I mean, I expect Kelenic to kind of announce his presence at some point this season. Both the catchers are great. I mean, there's not a weakness in the lineup. I mean, if you look at it, Arcia would be your guy, and Arcia was an all-star last year. So there's not a weakness in the lineup. If you have a weakness, it's probably going to be, somewhere in the pitching department. That's where you're going to circle something. But I don't even think there we have a real weakness. It's all about whether or not we show up, and that's really what you got to look for. But good question. I really do appreciate it. And I know I kind of rambled on that for a while. Sorry about that. Let's see. Oh, good Lord. All right. On the Go with CeeLo says, let's go 6K, baby. Thank you, man. Yeah, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. We really would appreciate that. The more subscribers, the better off you can. And if you subscribe, you get notifications to everything we do. You'll know next time when we go live, the moment we do it. And you'll know every time we drop a video on your favorite Braves players. Plus, if you would like the video, that really does help us, and it helps get us to other Braves fans. And that's really our goal, is we want to create a home base for Braves fans here on YouTube. Let's see. Daniel Fowler, we did not trade Darius Vines. He's still around. Richard Davis says, sign Duvall. The lack of outfield depth bothers me. Give him 2 to 3 years for $3 to $4 million and defer it till when Ozuna will be gone. I don't hate that. Me and my brother talk a lot of baseball, by the way. But we were talking earlier about Duvall. I just signed Duvall. Let him hit off the bench. I don't know if Duvall's going to want to do that. Because you're talking about him basically being on the back burner for a whole year. I mean, he could go get paid by somebody and play. I think he's a team guy, don't get me wrong, but, I mean, you're talking about him sitting out a year of his prime. I mean, I just don't know if he's going to want to do that. And that's really the tough thing. Like, when I'm telling you the reason we can't get depth right now is because of playing time, that's legit. That's not coming from me. That's quoted from AA. They can't attract free agents because it's like, well, when am I going to hit? Look at the lineup. When am I going to hit? All these guys post up. They all play all the time. When am I going to hit? And it's fair. And the problem that it comes down to is, what if someone gets hurt? I mean, we've seen Marcell Ozuna taking ground balls at first base because we do not have a backup for Matt Olson. We don't. We don't have really a backup for Riley. It'd probably be Arcia or some minor leaguer. I mean, Guillorme now, but I mean, we don't have a ton of guys that are gonna play. I mean, David Fletcher, I don't know. I don't know how this is going to go. The depth bothers me. But to be fair, at the beginning of last year, the depth bothered me as well because I thought, well, man, if somebody goes down, what are we going to do? And then Michael Harris is out for 3 weeks, and we put, Kevin Pillar out there, and everything's fine, because this offense has got so many weapons. So that's what they're banking on. I think if they get an opportunity to sign someone a little bit more like Duvall or like someone with that can be consistent off the bench, I think they'll do it. But I mean, that's where our real conversation is going to be right now. Is, hey, where are the bench guys going to be? Because they're not going to play very much. And I'm all for having a DH, and that's great and everything, but I remember having this conversation a few years ago about whether or not we should have a DH full-time. This was after the COVID season. And I said no, because I liked having guys on my team like Charlie Culberson or A-Ray Adrianza. I liked having those guys because they were specialists. They came off the bench, and they did that job. And they're going to have a tough time finding that job now, and it just is what it is. Pablo Sandoval is another one, from that time frame. I enjoyed that aspect of the game because it was strategy. And a lot of people are like, that's not even strategy. Yes, it is. And it was the fundamental component of the National League. And I don't think we have that anymore. And I don't love that. I love the DH game because we have Marcell Ozuna and because he hits bombs. But right now, it's not a good look. It's just, I don't know. It's more of a problem with MLB as a whole than it is for the Braves because I just don't think we're taking positions away, right? We're getting more and more athletic players. We're getting more and more talented players, and they have less opportunities to show it, right? We have a competition every year, spring training, to find yourself on the roster, and we took out a spot or two because really with a bench bat right now, you're talking about maybe, 9 games to be played, 10 games if you're lucky. I mean, I'm just saying, I think we're very limited in what we can do in terms of the bench, but we'll see. Richard Davis, Braves have $7 million before they reach the next level in tax. Sign Snell for 1 year and defer it. As much as I would like Blake Snell, I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Braves are pretty much set on what they've done in the starting rotation. I could be wrong. But I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think they're going to even flirt with the idea of deferring this money. Of course, if you don't know, he's referring to Shohei Ohtani's deal where he deferred $700 million to, when he's 87 years old. But it just is what it is. That's the Dodgers. We're not going to play in that financial ballpark, and we're not going to defer money because Shohei's going to be retired for 20 years still collecting checks. And you may not think that's a big deal, but you also don't know where the organization is going to be in that amount of time. I mean, you're talking about, years and years and years away. I mean, you might be paying Shohei's kids before it's over with. I don't think the Braves are going to do that. I certainly don't think they're going to do it for a guy like Snell. But, we'll see. Snell needs to get on the ball, though. I will say that. If he was smart, and of course he's a Scott Boras client, so it is what it is. And a lot of these free agents are still sitting out. I mean, we're, starting spring training. These guys don't have anywhere to play because they're waiting for the biggest money possible. If I'm Snell, I want a 1-year deal right now based on how everybody feels about me. You know what? Yeah, I'll pitch in Atlanta for 1 year, give him the Josh Donaldson treatment, and then let him hit free agency and go get his money. That's exactly what happened with Josh Donaldson. I wouldn't mind that, but I don't want to pay him $7 million for this year and then defer the rest. I want that $7 million there to hey, what do we need to do at the trade deadline? Okay, we're going to take on a little bit more money. We're going to do this. That's how you want to play that. But, we'll see how it goes. Nolan Miller. I was playing putt-putt with this guy earlier. If the Braves don't make the World Series, is the season a disappointment? Well, I think if you ask any player that, the obvious answer is yes. That goes for Acuña. Strider has all but said this exact quote. In terms of a fan's perspective, I'm always the guy that's going to say, look, man, 100-win season, you can't be upset with that. Did they, did it not work out in the postseason? Sure, but you cannot be upset with a 100-win season, one of the best offensive performances of all time. But, and that's a big one, but on the contrary, I'd be lying to you if I said that after last year losing to the Phillies in the postseason, after we dominated them all year, that one left a sour taste in my mouth. So I know it left a sour taste in all the players and the managers and the organization. I know it did. So for me, I don't know if necessarily winning the World Series is a disappointment if they don't make it to the World Series. I mean, sure, it's a disappointment. But I definitely think they got to jump the hurdle of the Phillies. They cannot let the Phillies do this another time. They just can't. And it used to be the Dodgers that we were having this battle with every year. Now it's the Phillies. And the Braves are kind of the team right now, and like the Dodgers were a few years ago. The Phillies are us in 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. They're us. And they've been able to take us down. And I don't think they're as complete a team. I don't think they're as talented of a team. They have good players. They have Bryce Harper, Castellanos, Nola. I mean, they have guys. But I don't think they're near as complete of a team. I don't think they... I just don't... And I think the record shows that. I mean, they didn't have 100 wins last year. They're a good team, but they didn't have that. They have guys. But I think the Braves have got to take them down this year. And I think they will. I think this year it feels different. Because last year going into that series, I still think the postseason format is flawed in a number of ways. But that's neither here nor there. That's the format we have to play in. I don't think it's necessarily a good one. But they've got to take down the Phillies this year. And I mean, I say that with confidence that they'll do it, but I also say it with they've got to. If they're gonna do anything, they've got to take down the Phillies. And let me rephrase that. They have to take down the Phillies in the postseason. They can't beat them all year and then lose to them in the postseason. Cannot happen again. Andrew Ford, when is Acuña getting the new contract he deserves? Well, we talked about that earlier. I mean, he wants it now. So I don't see why not do it now. If he's going to take a deal, there's nothing wrong with, you said, I'm going to quote you here. You said, when is Acuña getting the contract he deserves? Based on the current market, Acuña deserves Ohtani money. I mean, I'm just being real with you. He ain't going to get that in Atlanta. He's just not. He's not going to get $700 million. And I don't know that Ohtani should have gotten $700 million. I think there's nothing wrong with taking a hometown deal if you like it. He says he wants to be a Brave for life. Okay? The Braves need to give him the best offer they can do, and he needs to take it. And that needs to be the end of this. Let's not go through what we did with Freddie Freeman. Let's not do that. Let's just get him signed and be done with it. But we'll see. Let's see. DG, at least Olsen and MLB while we sit here in the chat. Oh, yeah. Okay. Y'all are talking. To each other. All right. Andrew Ford says, don't forget we have Ian Anderson coming back in July. I hear you. I need to see him before I say that he's in the mix to be in the starting rotation. I think he's more of a bullpen spot, to be honest with you at this point, because I just don't see him coming out of Tommy John, coming out of all of what he's done, and immediately jumping in as a starter. I just don't. And if he comes back in July, he's going to have rehab assignments as well. He's a good pitcher. He pitched in the World Series. I mean, the guy's, got experience. He's good. But I need to see him do some innings in the major leagues before I say, all right, he's cut out for this. He could be around next year, though, so there is that. Miguel Frica, hey, Tyler, Acuña said in Spanish that he needs to renew his contract. Knowing AA, I don't think he is going to get it. I disagree. Double A, he said a few years ago about Michael Harris, there's some jerseys that you want, you to buy and know that they're going to be here a while. Michael Harris was one of those guys. Austin Riley, don't forget, Austin Riley's making double what Acuña is making. He's making $20 million a year. I see nothing wrong with Acuña signing a $250 million deal. Maybe even $3. And I struggle with that. Maybe I see him as a 250. A lot of folks ain't going to like that because they don't think Acuña will take it. I think if you give him the biggest contract the Braves have ever offered, I think he may. And he says he wants to be a Brave for life. This is going to sound bad, but there's not a big difference between $250 million and $300 million. There's just not. You can buy a lot of the same things. And I think at that point, I think he would take it. I'm not saying that's going to be what the deal does. I don't know if the Braves will do it. They have a whole 4.5 years or 5 years to figure that out. But I certainly hope that they do figure it out prior to his departure. Let's see. We'll scroll down a bit. You guys are being very active in the chat. I'm going to have to scroll. Remember, super chats do get you jumped in line. And also, please do like the video. Really do appreciate it. Matthew says, Tyler, only 13 pitchers are allowed on an MLB roster. Should Braves add Culberson as their last official quote-unquote position player on the roster, but then allow him to pitch in blowout games to save our bullpen? That's kind of what I was saying earlier when I brought this up, was like, hey, look, I mean, you could, if he's a two-way player, you could, I don't think they're going to do this at all. I think that he's either going to be ready as a pitcher or not. But it would be kind of funny, if nothing else. I mean, it's kind of like a cheat code, but I don't think they're going to do it. Richard Davis says, let's see what Acuña wants as far as money goes. My guess is $40 million a year. He'd be 28 at the end of his contract, so 10 years, $400 million. Yeah, I mean, it's a steep price. I don't know that the Braves would do it. I think they may, they may do 35. I just know how the Braves operate. I don't know that they're going to do $400 million. I mean, because you're talking the biggest contract they've ever done was what, like Freddie? I just don't think they're going to do that. I'd be surprised. Jordan Elder, Mike Harris could settle into 6, Kelenic 9. That 9 hole for the Braves is special. Could be just what he needs to settle into Atlanta. I don't hate that. But I think for him, I think Arcia needs that spot more. Kelenic is not a bad hitter. Kelenic has been in Seattle, which is where baseball goes to die. Or that's where baseballs go to die. Fly balls go to die. You don't hit a lot of home runs there. I think being in Truist Park is going to benefit him tremendously. And I think getting out of Seattle and playing in Georgia weather is going to benefit him. But I don't think he needs the 9-hole to do it. I really like Arcia there because I think he's kind of, I hate to say he's our weakest link. I think Kelenic's going to surprise a lot of people. And it may be what you said. It may be Kelenic at 9. And, maybe put Harris at 6, catcher at 7, Arcia at 8. But Arcia without someone like Acuña's stature behind him, I think is an average player. With a guy like Acuña behind him, I think he's an all-star player. So that's my thought process. But I don't hate what you had to say. Miguel Freca says Michael Harris will be the National League MVP. Why not? Why not? Captain Spartan says, what are your expectations for Michael Harris and Jared Kelenic this year? You know what? I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to pull up Michael Harris's projections real quick. But while I do that, this is what I would say about Michael Harris. I think Michael Harris has already met expectations on what we thought he would be. I think he's a very good player. He's got a very good batting average. His on base is solid. His slug is good. I think he's capable of hitting 30 homers. He hit 18 last year. He's got career 37. In 2024, he's projected to hit 20. I think he could hit 30. And I'm not just saying that. I really think he's capable of hitting 30 homers. With Jared Kelenic, I think Kelenic is going to break out. I think he's going to break out big this year because he's leaving Seattle. He's going to be in a fair ballpark. He's going to be in a much better offense with a much more complete offense. And he's going to have people batting behind him that are going to force pitchers to throw him strikes. And this is a guy who has a great mindset. I know a lot of you guys have probably seen his interviews. And he's hard not to like because, he's like, look, I can't guarantee you anything of what I'm going to do other than I'm going to give you 110%. I want that guy in my lineup, right? So I'm not saying this is how it's going to be. I'm just saying, I really believe in Jared Kelenic. And I think he fits nicely into the Rosario role, but I don't think he's going to platoon. I think. All right, let's see. A lot of you guys being active tonight. Really do appreciate it. Wow. Okay, Corey Carter. My lord, it's crazy that AA is penalized for signing guys to great deals. People need to quit worrying about other people's money. I agree. I agree because AA does get kind of picked on about, hey, man, you just signed Ozzie Albies to $35 million over 5 years. Okay, let's take baseball out of this. If someone offered me $35 million to do just about any job in the world across 5 years, I would take it, okay? Ozzie Albies is doing just fine. It's not always about who makes the most money. Sometimes it's about where you live. Sometimes it's about where your kids are. Sometimes it's about, hey, I don't want to move my wife and family and everything. There's more to it. I'm comfortable in this organization. This organization has been great to me since I got here. Sometimes it's that. Sometimes player wants his money. But not every player's made the same. And Ozzie Albies, Ronald Acuña, I don't think they're made like a lot of these other guys. I just don't. And I could be wrong. I don't know them personally. I'm just telling you, I think they both would like to stay in Atlanta. And I think you're right. I don't think AA should be picked on for not giving out stupid contracts. I mean, how many times have we looked at a contract and gone, whew, he got that? Anthony Rendon is a perfect example, okay? I would much rather have Ronald Acuña making $10 million a year than have Anthony Rendon making $1 million a year, much less what he is making. By the way, I'm going to go on a rant real quick. Anthony Rendon is on a path to become the most hated player in baseball. And I'm not saying he deserves it, but what I am saying is he needs to just step out of the spotlight for a little while. Ron Washington probably needs to pull him in the office and lay this out because he is not doing himself any favors. This offseason, well, we'll take it back to last year. He has argued with fans. He has borderline fought them. He has, just in this offseason, said that there needs to be less games in baseball, which that's a conversation me and you can have. That's a conversation fans can have. It's even a conversation some players can have. Anthony Rendon, who's making, you know what, we're going to look up his salary real quick. I don't even know how much. I know he's getting paid good, though. Anthony Rendon, who is making, let me see, $245 million over 7 years. I'm just saying, you don't need to be saying you want to work less. You don't need to be saying that. And you're not playing particularly well. You had, I guess you were hurt last year, or you had 2 homers, 236 batting average. Your time in Anaheim has been pretty bad. He was an all-star 1 year, and he's making $245 million, okay? That's my point. You don't want to just pay somebody money because you think they're going to be good. You pay them for the expectation. And Anthony Rendon, his all-star year, led in doubles and RBIs. He had a .319 average, a .412 on base. Sometimes giving players that much money doesn't make them better. It just makes them more comfortable, and that's not always a good thing. He said the other day that baseball is not top priority because faith and family are. There's nothing wrong with that. Look, faith and family are priority in my life too. But again, it's because he has already preempted that with all of the other. And it's just not doing him any favors in public relations to keep on talking. And he just about has to because media is probably at his locker every day. But sometimes it's just better to put your head down. I don't know. But, he's he's on a path to make baseball fans not like him. And look, I know a thing or two about baseball fans not liking you, okay? Because there's some baseball fans that don't like me. Some of them are my closest friends. But my point is, it's sometimes better, to just ride the wave. Talk to your friends in the organization. Talk to your family. Don't talk to the media all the time. And, I hope Ron Washington can work with him and get him going, because he's a great player. He's got a lot of God-given ability, but I don't think he enjoys the game. He's just about said that. He doesn't enjoy baseball. It's a job. It's not, there's a lot of guys who would play baseball, for the same salary that they are paid to work a 9 to 5. I'm just saying, it's not always a good thing to keep talking. It just isn't. So that's my Anthony Rendon rant. Thank you for listening. Really do appreciate it. Let's see. Okay, it jumped on me. Sorry, guys. Matthew says, Tyler, is it just me, or is the Luis Guillorme signing a bad contract in this market? Ahmed Rosario got less money than Guillermo, but was projected to get way more. Tim Anderson was a cheap option, too. Yes. Yes and no. I think, the Braves really value clubhouse guys. I think Guillorme is that. I don't think Tim Anderson is, just to be frank. We've seen the issues he's had over the past few years. I don't necessarily want that in my clubhouse. Tim Anderson also has been having down year after down year. Maybe that changes with a change of scenery. I don't know. You're talking a few years ago, I would have loved to have had Tim Anderson, and now it's like, I'm good. It's a cheap option. I don't think Anderson was ever going to come to be a bench bat. Not when he can go to Miami and get what he got. And play every day. I just don't think that was going to happen. Plus, he's playing alongside, Arraez down there in Miami now. So I think, Miami's probably a good fit for Anderson. I don't think it was a good fit for Atlanta. Because I just don't. I don't think he would have gelled well. In terms of Ahmed Rosario, that could have gone that way. In terms of Guillorme having a better deal, I don't know. But what I can tell you is, I think that the Guillermo deal was, I keep saying Guillermo, I think that was a deal that the Braves, all right, let's get this done and just have a guy that we know is going to be here. I think it was one of those. The other two also don't really, strike me as interesting. Tim Anderson's got, probably the most, attraction behind him. But even then, I don't want to deal with with what comes with him. Richard Davis says, I think Acuña is getting a big head. I had heard Acuña complain about Riley getting $212 million, and he was the best player on the team and gets $100 million. I hope I'm wrong. I have not heard that. Here's what I'm going to tell you about Ronald Acuña. A lot of you guys may have seen the Acuña Mania video that is on the channel right now. I'd like you to go watch it, Richard specifically. You can see how much Ronald Acuña doesn't really have a big head. The time he took with that guy, the time he took that night with the fans, I was there. He cares about the fans. I don't think he's got a big head. I don't think that at all. But, this is, you also got to fight for your money. You're not going to get a raise sitting there saying, oh, yeah, I love this place. I love what I do. You got to fight for your money a little bit. And, it's hard to argue that he is the best player on the team. I'm not saying that Riley didn't deserve it and Acuña doesn't or whatever. I'm just saying there is a little bit of truth to him being the best player on the team and not being paid like it. And, we've seen this every sport, every year. We see this all the time, and every time somebody gets paid, other players are going to want to get paid too. Look at, if you ever seen The Last Dance, look at Scottie Pippen, it just is what it is. And players want their money. I understand it. But, like Jeff Nelson says, I think Acuña came from somewhere where he did not have the blessings he has here. And that's the best way I can put it. Ozzie did as well. Is it right that they get paid less than some of the other players that they're not, that they're better than? Probably not. But they like the organization. They like the deal when they signed them. It was guaranteed money. The Braves invested in them. And, the Braves should be able to reap that reward to some degree. I think Acuña should play out his contract. However, if you want to keep Acuña beyond that 10-year mark, you probably need to give him more money up front now. So we'll see what happens, but I hope they're able to keep him. We're talking 5 years away. So it is what it is. I personally don't think Acuña is that type of player. I've seen a lot of those players. I'm not naming names, but I've seen a lot of them. I don't think Acuña is that guy at all. Jeff Nelson says, oh, sorry, I already read that. Richard Davis says, already read a lot of these. Matthew says, Tyler, I'm glad you brought up Rendon. Here we go. Rendon frequently refuses to play due to unconfirmed injuries. Wash expects his infielders to play every day, even when hurt. How do you think Wash and Rendon will coexist? I think the Angels knew exactly what they were doing when they brought in Ron Washington. I'm going to let that one sit. I think they knew exactly what they were doing when they brought in Ron Washington. Wash does not play. He does not play, and he's very systematic. He's very diplomatic, but he's also very systematic. He has a particular ability to get the most out of his players. We've seen that with Austin Riley's defense. We've seen it with Ozzie Albies in general. We've seen it out of just about everybody. And I'll tell you, I've met the guy. I've met Ron Washington, one of the nicest people in baseball I have ever come across. Okay? And I'll tell you why. I spoke to him, y'all have seen the interview probably with me and him, and it was great. But last year spring training, I went up to him, hey, Wash, how you doing? He goes, what are you doing here? I get that occasionally when I do those. He talked with me for 15 minutes about, the first time being there, what kind of opportunity it was. He's a very caring person. And I think he wants the best for whoever he can be around. Pete Alonso is a great example. He's a great example of that. So, when at the All-Star game, Ron Washington took time to go to a division rival and help him on his defense. Ron Washington wants the best out of everybody. And to get the best out of Rendon, the only way I can put it is, Wash would say it, but he's got to put a foot somewhere, And I think Rendon's got to get motivated again, because Rendon's getting his money. Why would he be motivated? If he doesn't love baseball and he's getting paid $245 million over 7 years, why would he be motivated? And that's the risk for a lot of these organizations. It's not always, he should get $700 million. That's maybe true, but not all players are the same. Some players are going to take that $700 million and they're not going to change a thing they do. They're not going to, work any less. They're not going to work any less hard. They're not going to train any less hard. Some guys are, look, I got my money. I'm good. I don't, 30 good swings a year and I'm good. I don't need anything crazy, and some guys, aren't going to do that, but it just is what it is. I don't think that Anthony Rendon is a good, I don't think Anthony Rendon is a good representation of what the Players Association would like organizations to think they're going to get when signing these big deals. And I think it's a shame, because he has a lot of talent, and he's got an opportunity that a lot of people wish they had. And it's unfortunate. I think it's unfortunate he gets paid as much as he does, to be honest with you. Let's see. Jake Hobby says, not Braves related, but it's the NCAA game is coming out in July, and several players and analysts announcers. So I guess they just announced it. It's coming out in July, huh? Yeah, I'll have to buy that one. I don't play a ton of video games. I play my MLB The Show. I play, a little bit of that. I have Spider-Man. I saw that Star Wars Battlefront is making a return. The original, I know a lot of you guys are young. The original Star Wars Battlefront's coming back, on an old PS2, and I actually pre-ordered that today. That's about as far as my video games go. But no, I'm excited for the NCAA one for sure. Richard Davis, Culberson is the perfect bench player, can play the whole infield and pitch. I don't disagree. We'll see what happens with him. Jeffrey Humphrey, Soto turned $440 million down from Washington. I think it was closer to $5. But that's the opposite. We were talking about, hey, Acuña may not want to, take $250 million. It depends where he's going. If you want to pay me $500 million to sit here and sour in Washington with no team around me, no, I don't want to play here anymore. But if you'll pay me $300 million, I'll go to San Diego, right? Or I'll go to the Yankees, wherever the case may be. Corey Carter says, it's amazing that Rendon had his best year in a contract year. Contract years are real, man. They're real. They are real. And, we'll see. We will see. Corey Carter asked one more question. We're going to get out of here in just a minute, guys, so get your comments in, and if you got a quick one, get a super chat in as well. Also, on your way out, please do like the video. Corey Carter says, can Culberson pitch or does he throw? That's the question. You know, he can throw mid-90s. He's got some good secondary options, but I don't know if the pitching's there. That's the skill he's working on. You know, it's a matter. It's time, not so much what he can do now. It's what he'll be able to do by the end of the year, maybe. Miguel Freaka, hey, Rich. Okay, you're talking to somebody else. I apologize. Jake Hobby says, wonder where Braves plan to use Ray Kerr, middle reliever. I think so. I definitely think so. I think Ray Kerr, you know, along with the other lefties that the Braves have gotten this year, is going to be a bigger deal than a lot of people are giving it credit for. We talked a lot before they ever signed any lefties about what they could possibly do because they needed left-handed pitching. Ray Kerr was not one I had on my bingo card, but I thought he was a solid deal when we got him. I think he's a guy. He's got high velocity. He can, you know, dominate left-handed hitters specifically, but also righties. I mean, he's got high velocity, and it's something the Braves can work with. So, you know, we'll see. Let's see. DG says it perfectly. It's free $99 to hit that like button and subscribe. Yes, it is. Thank you, DG. It's free to like the video. Please like the video. I really do appreciate. I like that free 99. My dad used to say he'd go up to like a concession stand or something when I was little playing Little League, and he'd go, "I'd like a chicken basket, a Coke, and a large discount." It's free 99 to like this video. Just remember that, and to subscribe. Don't forget the subscribe part. Also, flip on the notifications if you would, just so that you can be updated whenever we do go live, whenever we have Braves content. We will be doing a lot more of this stuff as the season gets closer, and really more often just in general now because we can. I mean, we have stuff to talk about. We had a whole list of things to talk about earlier. And if you missed the first half of this show, I would really advise you go check out the beginning of this. And we are going to drop some of the videos, from this stream. We're going to clip it directly from the stream and have it over the week. You can send your friends these videos. We'd really appreciate that if they're Braves fans. If you want them to be better Braves fans, to be invested in the team and know their stuff. And if you got, maybe I said something that you agree with that they need to think too and they disagree with me, send them this. Maybe it'll change their mind. I don't know. But please do share this channel as well. We really do appreciate that. And, I think ultimately, we're going to have a great year. Last year we hit 5,000 subs. We're already on the path to get to 6,000. We only have a few hundred more. But we want to get at some point I'd like to get to 10,000, 100,000, a million, whatever. But we need your help to do it. And it would really help us now. If you're new here, please do subscribe to the channel. If you're not new here, do your job. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, all that good stuff. Please do that, and again, please do share with your friends. And as the season gets closer, we're only going to have more content, so please be aware of that. But for now, that's going to wrap it up here at On Deck. Thank you to William Fulgham for the super chat. Really do appreciate that. Thank you to all of you guys who joined the chat tonight. Really do appreciate you as well. And as always, we'll see you next time right here at On Deck.
Baseball fans, make sure you like and share this video and subscribe to this channel. As always, thank you for your support.